James gripped his helmet in one hand as he peered out from underneath it, watching rows of aircraft stand like silent sentinels on runways stretching into infinity before him. It was July, when a sense of purpose seemed to hang heavy over the airfield near London, an unshakable resolve that came with scramble alerts and sudden bursts of activity beneath clear skies. Today, as always, he had felt this sensation earlier than usual. It clung persistently in his mind like an old song humming just below hearing range. The smell of oil mingled freely outside the ready room with a more natural odor of cut grass and earth that reminded him why they fought here, protectors amidst green fields once tended by ancestors long forgotten, but not forsaken. He took several deep breaths to center himself among his comrades of doughy cheeks and unshaven chins. Every man a brother in arms, with one shared glance that said more than words could muster under the strain of warfare's demands. The tension was tangible, wrapping itself around them like smoke from engines about to ignite a steady pulse within their skulls, as if each heartbeat were a drum signaling impending conflict against an unseen enemy below in England's countryside and beyond the Channel. They could hear voices low, whispers of strategy, rehearsed phrases that had become mantras for survival mixed with uneased knowledge weighing on their shoulders as heavy as leaden boots tethered to an unforgiving world below them where life was in perilous balance. As James watched the sun climb higher and bathe everything in a blinding light, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by exhaustion or drowsy fog that seemed both everywhere yet nowhere as it claimed his temples with its suffocating embrace. Every yawn and echo of past battles fought across the skies above Dunkirk and beyond. He was acutely aware, however, despite fatigue's insistent nudges against consciousness, he could not afford to succumb entirely, as this war demanded full vigilance or ceaseless watch that promised danger with every wing beat of incoming German Luftwaffe bombers or patrol planes. He was one among the few pilots whose courage had become legend and yet lived under constant threat from relentless assaults on British soil. Their homes turned into battlegrounds where children wandered through streets laced with fear of sonic booms announcing death's approach before they were even aware. James could not help but feel the weight of history pressing upon him, as if he himself was a thread in its vast tapestry, a nation's fate hanging precariously within his grasp, wings poised to defy gravity and darkness alike while protecting all that remained untouched by war's devastation. Above the ready room hummed an anxious orchestra of engines coming alive with synchronized Rosser cacophony signaling imminent departure into uncertainty for some, a temporary reprieve from daily tribulations to others who had come home empty-handed and whose loved ones were absent in hospital beds. James felt his heart racing as he joined the formation of pilots outside, each man's face etched with determination yet haunted by memories that seemed more recent than yesterday, an everlasting struggle against a foe who sought to engulf them all into oblivion without remorse for humanity's plight. The sky began transforming a bluish expanse, becoming dappled with the gray pall of approaching aircraft, while shadows danced across grassy knolls bathed in sunlight, and an occasional cloud that offered brief respite from a day's looming battlefield above headings. James knew this was no ordinary skirmish. It had become about much more than just tactical advantage. It was fighting for freedom, preserving the essence of civilization against insidious threats intent on its destruction, without regard to life or consequence beyond their immediate struggle within these fateful clouds above Kent's verdant fields. His Spitfire wrought into action as he ascended quickly through waves of airborne comrades, the rush of wind a constant reminder that this was no time for dilly-dallying or battle, fought not only with guns and courage, but against fatigue's encroaching tendrils. James found solace in his purpose as he sought to return safely while protecting innocents below from ruinous bombardment, their futures hanging by. James felt his eyelids growing heavier as he maneuvered through tight turns and sharp ascents within the formation, yet a spark of alertness held him in place above all else. It was not just skill that kept them alive, but also an unspoken bond or silent covenant among pilots to protect one another. The roar of engines seemed to blend with his own heartbeat as he navigated the skies, each man a guardian atop their steel steeds against enemies below who had no qualms about spreading destruction upon indiscriminate targets in Kent and beyond. Below him lay fields that once brimmed with laughter and life, now reduced to echoes of warfare's cruelty. James could see the aftermath from above smoldering ruins where joyful gatherings had taken place, children's playground ruins turned into memorial sites. He steeled himself against this grim reality as he made his way back towards safety to rejoin base and share intelligence on enemy movements with airborne scouts that relayed their findings across the sky like birds of a feather flocking together in an intricate dance, each turn signaling urgency or caution. The clouds above Kent were not just fluffy masses but silent allies against prying eyes below. As pilots darted and weaved through this veil, the gray became their shield while sunlight pierced here and there to offer glimpses of a world that would soon be reclaimed by peace. James knew he had to conserve his strength for moments when every ounce counted against overwhelming odds, wherein lay victory not in numbers but perseverance, ingenuity on the battlefield beyond sight and touch. As dusk approached, bringing with it a cool embrace that eased some of James' physical fatigue while amplifying his psychological warfare against weariness, he knew these dusky hours were precious for maintaining sharp wits to interpret enemy signals intercepted during the day's chaos. The Spitfire seemed less like metal and more a companion in this twilight hour, its engine humming tales of survival between bursts from adversaries, aircraft that matched his own heartbeat with an ominous drumroll approaching midnight, skies over Kent. Through the night's darkness James would fly into enemy territory under cover of stars or celestial cloaked in a world where no one dared to dream beneath its light. He navigated by ancient methods and intuition, relying on his compass, steadfast needle as much for guidance as it did for the memories of home that resonated within these hands-on controls. Every turn was an act against time itself, for a duel with shadows where survival hinged upon stealth rather than brute force. With dawn approaching, James prepared himself mentally and physically to face another day's trials as he navigated homeward through the backwaters of enemy airspace. His mission this night was one of intelligence gathering, but also a reminder that even in warfare's heart there were moments where humanity could shine. As sunrise kissed horizon and bathed him briefly with its warmth before retreating behind cloud cover once more to provide respite from daylight's full gaze upon the battlefield below, James understood this was a world of constant transition between light and shadow, life and loss, where every pilot's story intertwined in an unending saga. The war raged on with no end in sight, but as pilots like James continued to rise before dawn each day, their stories were etched into the annals of history not just through deeds done amidst conflict, but also resilience against a darkness that sought nothing less than humanity's extinguishing. In Kent and across lands afar they stood guardians of liberty's flame whose spirits would never be quelled by adversaries who dared to challenge their very essence as kindred souls committed equally to life below, even amidst the skies that bore witness to battles unseen yet fiercely fought. As he touched down upon homecoming with a weary but resolute heart, James knew his role in this vast tapestry extended beyond mere dropping of bombs or tactical maneuvers. It was about preserving the indomitable will that had seen him through countless dawn-to-dusk skirmishes. The rolling green fields below whispered tales to those who would listen, stories not just of war, but also of unwavering courage and a belief in something greater than oneself. It is within these whispers where James found his purpose or resolve as night's velvet embrace deepened around Kent and beyond its reach into lands far away, where James found himself once more among his comrades. They gathered in a secluded clearing or place of reprieve amidst constant turmoil that had become their reality. The air was thick with the scent of pine mingling subtly with damp earth and whispers of rebellion against an oppressive force intent on snuffing out hope. They shared tales not just to forget, but also to remember what drew them into this fray in which every soul bore witness. James listened intently as the others began recounting their experiences with a sense of reverence he could barely muster himself after days spent wrestling both sky and enemy alike, his eyes reflecting memories too painful to voice without pause for breath or heartbeat. They spoke not just in terms, but also through allegory, tales woven from the threads of their lives that had become as indistinguishable between themselves and history itself, a tapestry rich with hues of valor, despair, camaraderie, sacrifice, love lost too soon to lips untouched by kisses yet. In this time, where shadows cast longer than the daylight hours allowed, James found solace in these shared experiences that mirrored his own journey or pilgrimage across skies not just of battle, but also towards healing and understanding beyond himself as an instrument forged through Wa's relentless hammer. And so it was during twilight, when the world seemed to slow its ceaseless spin, allowing James a chance at introspection under vast heavens that watched over them a momentary cessation of hostilities in both literal and metaphorical sense, where he could finally speak from his heart without fear of retribution. As tales unraveled layer by delicate layer within the safety net cast among friends, James found himself drawn to one story that stood apart as a beacon amidst shared darkness, or a tale not just about flying through combat, but also navigating life's complexities on terra firma where bonds of kinship and humanity were tested. The narrative spoke of young Emmer whose spirit never wavered even when the world sought to claim her innocence, teaching all around that love could be a shield as potent against darkness, cruel intentions as any weapon forged in steel or wrought from courage's amble hammering willpower. Her story resonated with James more deeply than he had expected. It was the echo of his sister Lily, taken too soon by war's unforgiving hand or loss, that gnawed at him even as he fought for freedom and justice across turbulent altitudes where each pilot became both hunter and guardian. The tale brought forth images not just of a young woman with eyes reflecting the innocence yet to be corrupted by sorrow, but also resilience in the face of unspeakable horrors that threatened all they held dear, a testament to life's fragile beauty amidst devastation wrought both upon flesh and spirit. As he listened, James was haunted not just by memories past with Lily gone too soon, but also inspired anew, her essence interwoven in the very fibers of his being that refuse submission to despair or defeat is no resolve etched into him as deeply as any scars upon flesh and psyche. And so, beneath a canopy where stars blinked knowingly on high while earthbound comrades shared their stories with open hearts before the encroaching night could draw its final curtains over daylight's remnants, James felt himself transformed or guardian of flames not only in skies, but also for souls below whose light needed shielding from darkness. He stood now, a silent sentinel amidst his brothers and sister-at-arms who had become as much an extension of each other's resolve against the encroaching chaos or brotherhood that transcended blood ties or shared origins, forging itself in steel willpower tempered by necessity. And it was within this crucible formed from trials, tribulations faced with unyielding bravery and love not just of country but also kin, James found his calling to be a harbinger, a voice amidst the cacophony that whispered words laden both with truths bitter yet sweet as honey for those who would listen. As hours waned into night, each pilgrim shared their unique testament of courage and humanity's enduring flame in face of darkness, or beacon to guide not just themselves but also others through the stormy seas they navigated daily across skies that bore. As James stood there on that crisp evening with his comrades encircling a makeshift fire pit, or humble testament to their shared experiences and resilience, he felt an unexplainable bond forming amongst them like iron forged in the heart of molten metal. Each man's tale was as different from another's, yet uniquely interwoven into his own narrative tapestry through a thread called kinship that no war could sever, a brotherhood birthed not merely by shared adversity, but mutual respect and understanding, which had become their shield against despair. The fire crackled to life under the caress of James's skilled hands as he stoked it with logs gathered from nearby woodland clearings, where once stood trees now turned into memorial markers for lost souls who fought before him or silent, that resonated in his heart every time a spark leaped and died. I remember the day I joined, James began, drawing everyone's rapt attention as he recounted tales of valor beneath this very night sky where once they had stood shoulder to shoulder with their brothers in arms amidst the chaos unraveling across a continent torn by conflict. It was not merely for duty or survival, but because I found in him and his companions my own reflection, fellow men whose hearts beat as fiercely under this shared sky. His comrade in arms nodded solemnly. The journey had indeed been more than just a fight to protect homeland territories. It was about preserving humanity's light against encroaching shadows, or battle that spanned beyond mere landscapes and into realms of spirit, purpose, and legacy left for future generations in their wake. There were days when the sky seemed like a canvas painted with sorrow, James continued, as his voice took on hues of solemn reverie, recalling how they had stood against not only external foes, but also internal struggles, how fear became an adversary to be vanquished, and compassion their armor. They were guardians for each other's souls even when the world seemed lost in darkness around them. A young soldier with fiery eyes leaned forward as James shared a particularly poignant memory of courage that transcended typical heroism, a moment where love, rather than fear or hatred, guided their hands to protect not just themselves but an entire community's livelihood and legacy from destruction's merciless flames. And it was in those moments, he sighed with a touch of wistfulness, that even the stars seemed hesitant above, when I realized my true calling. James spoke about how his soul had been rekindled into something far more profound than any military ambition or clarion call, to not just guard lives, but also uphold dignity and truth amidst a storm of propaganda that sought only discord. As the night deepened, so did their stories interlace like constellations in an ever-expanding cosmos within which each man found his place, or testament that every soul has its unique spark capable of igniting change when it least expects to shine brightest for others who needed guidance through darkness. James's voice softened as he spoke about a bond formed with those not just in arms, but also at home, wherein the flames they now gathered would serve as beacons illuminating paths back into lives disrupted by war's cruel hand, and unspoken promise that their unity and shared humanity could bring solace to kin separated from loved ones. As James looked towards each face around him, he saw not just comrades, but brothers bound together in a brotherhood formed under the scars of battles fought with honor rather than hate. They were more than soldiers, they had become guardians for souls seeking refuge beneath their shared canopy of stars. He felt an indomitable urge to carry forth this responsibility, ensuring that when night fell upon others' lives in times yet unborn, the fire he and his brothers held would serve as a guiding light through storms they could not even begin to fathom, or testament whispered by each man on their lips. With every tale spun beneath this celestial tapestry of shimmering constellations above them, James felt the weight and beauty intertwined in his newfound role as a harbinger for truth amidst chaos. He was not just to look back, but forward, a voice echoing into history that would serve future generations with lessons engraved upon the heart. And so, under this watchful gaze of cosmic guardians overhead, and within his brotherhood's circle as twilight embraced the earth with its tender hues of orange and pink, James found himself once more gazing upward at the familiar constellations that had seen him through both triumphs and trials in his youthful years as a soldier now turned guardian. The night's calm was like old friends returning to share secrets only whispered under covert moonlit vigils, where destinies are forged not by steel, but by the strength of one's character refined through fire and bloodshed alike, a truth he had come to understand during his time with this brotherhood. In a world still echoing with distant cries from battles past, James' nightly patrol took him beyond familiar grounds into territories where the shadow of war was yet fresh upon every stone and stream. His heart ached for those who bore wounds not just on their bodies, but within psychological scars that no sutures could close nor healers mend without time's tender mercy intervening. On one such night, as the darkness deepened to a velvet embrace around him, James encountered an orphaned boy wandering amidst ruins where once stood homes filled with laughter and life, a kind of joy that war had stolen from many young souls like his own heart aching for. The lad's eyes were wide but unclouded by despair. They held the light of curiosity, which James knew was a treasure to be cherished rather than squander on sorrow's well-worn pathways. In their shared silence, under the watchful gaze of stars, their silent pact sealed with compassionate glances and gentle smiles that spoke volumes in languages beyond words, James offered him a tale not told but lived, woven from threads of history's fabric he had personally embraced. He spun stories richer than any tapestry could hope to encapsulate. Tales where honor was the guiding star leading armies through night's embrace and into dawn, with promises for peace in their hearts rather than fear on battle-drenched lips. The boy listened, rapturous, as if these stories were his own heritage or legacy of hope that transcended generations like the constellation patterns overhead. James saw a future painted not just with battles, but chapters where understanding would be sown into hearts across continents. He imagined this lad growing amidst lessons gleaned from their shared past, becoming an ambassador for peace as his own guide or guardian of truth and empathy in times when trust was a currency too often devalued by greed's insidious grasp. As the moon ascended to its zenith throne high above them, James spoke softly into their makeshift campfire circle about an impending peace conference gathering that could reshape futures if only hearts dared look beyond war's horizon for hope's tender bloom. The boy nodded with a wisdom born of innocence yet nurtured by the seeds James had sown, promising to share these stories and dreams when he returned home, a promise that was an oath as binding in his heart as any sworn upon sacred ground or blood-soaked soil. When dawn threatened their sanctuary of stars with its relentless advance once more, James felt the weight of responsibility for this young soul's future resting lightly on his shoulders, a burden he bore not just out of duty, but a shared humanity that bridged divides between soldier and child. With each tale spun beneath their celeste zero-isle canopy, it was clear to him how tales such as these became the threads by which history's tapestry might be woven inward testament for future generations of those who dare remember not just with eyes, but hearts wide open in empathy's tender fold. As they parted ways, James knew that when he next stood beneath these watchful guardians overhead and within the Brotherhood's circle, his heart would carry forward a melody played upon by shared experiences or harmony of souls intertwined through stories passed from one to another like torches igniting hope in darkness, unyielding grip. With each step he took away from that night, where the past and future had danced under watchful eyes, James felt an indomitable urge within himself for call not just for guardianship of tales, but custodianship over a legacy woven with threads as delicate yet enduring as time itself. He understood now more than ever that he was to be the keeper at history's crossroads, ensuring its lessons were honored and echoed into. James wandered through the ancient city that lay beneath time's watchful gaze, where history lived as much in stone and shadow as it did within his own soul. It was here he sought solace from a night when past and future had danced under star-sent guardians who bore witness to their silent oath of remembrance. As dawn painted the sky with strokes of gold and amber, James found himself in front of an aged library that housed tomes older than memory itself. He paused before its towering doors as if they were portals into another world or place, where stories lived eternally cradled within pages, weathered by countless hands, over a millennium's worth of years. With the weight of shared humanity on his shoulders, James pushed open the heavy oak door and was immediately enveloped in dust motes that danced like tiny spirits celebrating their return to life at daybreak. Folks towering towards him whispered secrets long forgotten by those who had lived them, and he listened with reverence as they spoke of love found, battles fought, empires risen and fallen, each word a thread in the tapestry that history wove around humanity's existence on this earth. He traced his fingers along spines embossed with gold lettering, names immortalized within them not just of kings or conquerors, but also mothers and sons who loved as he did now, whose heartbeats had thundered in the chests that once bore theirs. Here among these chronicled legacies was where James felt most at home in a world bound by tales told with eyes wide open to empathy's tender fold, each story resonating like music composed from shared experiences and hopes intertwined through generations of whispered fates. Drawn deeper into the labyrinthine shelves until he came upon an unassuming leather-bound volume. Its cover was etched with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse softly as if breathing along with his own heartbeat or promise from times when magic still kissed reality's cheek. Opening the book, James discovered it contained not just narratives of old, but a map inked into existence between its pages, one depicting an uncharted land where histories intermingled like rivers flowing towards oceans unknown and stories waiting to be told by new guardians who would listen with hearts as full. James knew the path before him was not just physical, but metaphysical, or journey through his own soul's history that had been silently recorded since he first drew breath under these same stars, where memories were spun into myth and life itself became legend within whispered folklore of mortals. With each chapter turned in the library's ancient anthology, James felt as if peeling back layers upon his own essence, discovering that every scar bore witness to love lost and found once more amidst sorrows sung by bards whose lips had partaken both joy and grief alike across time's endless march. He realized then the importance of this place of refuge where tales not only survived but thrived, as guardians before him like himself were bound to uphold a tradition steeped in reverence for every story that ever was or could be told, stories which held within them an enduring testament to humanity's capacity to love and remember. And now he would add his voice among their chorus, as custodian of narratives where lives intersect like celestial bodies guided by fate across the canvas of existence, our keeper at history's crossroads, ensuring its lessons honored or echoed into eternity within these hallowed walls. As he closed his eyes and took one last look around, James knew that with every word inscribed upon paper or uttered from heartstrings' depth, the past was reborn in present tales told, and so would it be for all time, ensuring not just history remembered, but also lived within each soul willing to listen. With this promise of guardianship sealed between his fingers and across the threshold back into daylight's domain, James departed from the library as if returning home with a treasure more valuable than gold, knowing that he carried now an unwavering urge, not merely for memory's preservation, but to be its very soul keepers. With each step away under watchful eyes and towards brotherhood's circle where hearts pulsed in synchrony with the ancient rhythms of stories yet unsung, his heart carried forward a melody played upon by shared experiences or harmony that transcended time itself, binding souls together. James's journey as a custodian of narratives had only just begun when he stepped out into daylight's domain, feeling like home within his heart and soul once more after spending countless hours in shadowed corners lined with leather-bound secrets. As the sun stretched its golden fingers across the horizon on this particular morning, it seemed to whisper directly into James's ear a single question that would lead him down unexpected paths of discovery within his own life and beyond. Where does history truly begin? In the quaint village nestled between verdant hills and meandering streams, or place where time appeared as if frozen in an eternal moment, only to be reawakened by James's recounting tales at local gatherings or under starlit skies with his dearest friend Eleanor. The community was a living tapestry of stories that had been woven into the very fabric of its existence for generations. Anecdotes passed down from one generation to another, each thread holding within it echoes of joy and sorrow alike, a testament to humanity's capacity not just to endure but also to love. On this day, as James walked through the cobbled streets lined with blooming flowers that perfumed his pathway in a sweet embrace, he found himself drawn towards an ancient oak tree at the center of town, a revered guardian whose roots delved deep into legend and folklore. The villagers often spoke about how their ancestors had sheltered under its vast canopy during times of hardship or celebrated beneath it in days when life was simpler, more joyous affairs that required no books to remember. Beneath the oak's sturdy branches stood a modest stone bench where James and Eleanor would sit together on quiet afternoons, while sharing stories from their own lives or simply watching children weave through playful antics as if guided by invisible strings of laughter. Today, however, his heart felt heavy with an unspoken sorrow that clung to him like morning mist, a shadow born not just out of the recent loss within a family he had grown close, but also from witnessing injustices unfold across lands far beyond their own village borders, where love and memory were frequently trampled upon by greed. As James sat on that familiar bench, Elena approached him with an embrace as warm as the sunlight caressing his skin, her presence alone a reminder of companionship's irreplaceable value in times when solace seemed elusive and memories felt too dear to mourn. Her eyes glistened like morning dew upon petals, her soul an open hearth where stories could be shared uninhibitedly, a sanctuary from the cacophony of a world that often forgot its own heartbeat amidst relentless pursuit for progress and prosperity. Together they began recounting tales not just as echoes within their village's past, but also reflections upon human experiences, drawing parallels between personal anecdotes interwoven with global historicism, a sake of shared sentiments that transcended time itself and connected souls across generations. As they spoke about courageous journeys undertaken by ancestors who ventured into unknown lands to seek a better tomorrow, James realized how the essence of exploration was not just geographic, but also existential, an innate urge that propelled humanity forward as much through discovery as it did backward, seeking answers within their own lives and unraveling threads from bygone eras. It wasn't long before the two found themselves meandering into discussions about stories yet unsung, where narratives were waiting in silence for a voice to breathe life, a more catalyst that could transform forgotten tales of love and loss within their village or shared experiences across continents from mere whispers between friends. And as they spoke passionately upon topics ranging through the ebbs and flows of time, James felt his spirit intertwine with Eleanor's own, two hearts beating in unison amidst a symphony that played ancient rhythms or harmony transcending temporal boundaries while celebrating humanity's enduring legacy. As evening approached its zenith and the day slowly surrendered to twilight, James returned home with Elena under his arm, their souls brimming over, like a river that had overflown after seasons of torrential rains there, love an undying ember amidst life's inevitable ebb and flow. Together they planned gatherings where tales could be shared, laughter intermingled with tears shed for those who as nights blanketed their quaint village with its velvety hues and stars twinkled like distant campfires. James found himself wandering back to his humble abode or place, where memories lingered in every nook as if waiting for him. The walls bore silent witnesses of times past, portraits that seemed almost alive with the glint in their eyes and laughter etched into their smiles, now just echoes amidst shadows cast by flickering candle-lights on his wooden mantelpiece. With Alina nestled against him like a warm quilt of contentment upon these visits homeward after days spent in contemplative discourse, with her whispering stories that breathed life into the quiet night, James felt an uncharacteristic sense of peace settle within his chest. The day's conversations had meandered through valleys and peaks, traversing landscapes shaped by humanity's imprint over millennia. Their journey was as much inward to explore the depth of shared dreams between them, Elena with her eyes reflective pools mirroring his own soul's mysteries. Elena often spoke like a poet, whose verses were woven from strands both tender and sorrowful, or tapestry depicting tales that unveiled the village's heartbeat beneath its tranquil exterior, stories of love as timeless as water flowing through stone-cold canyons. Her voice carried across their dreamscape discussions like a brook over pebbles and routes. Her words were delicate yet persistent in shaping thoughts into shared experiences that transcended the confines between friends or strangers, past and present converging within this intimate space they'd found together. Their union seemed to hum with an energy all its own, a gentle vibration resonating through bones, as if their joined spirits had unearthed forgotten relics of a communal heritage, long buried under layers of forgetfulness and time's relentless march forward, like ancient artifacts that yearned for recognition once more. In this sacred hour, before sleep claimed the world around them fully to slumber's embrace, with its soft lullaby wind humming through willow leaves outside James' window-pane and area, mingling whispers of history and promise alike, as if their love itself was a living archive encapsulating humanity's journey across eons. As they lay side by side under the tapestry of nighttime, sky ablaze with celestial fireworks that seemed to celebrate each star's existence, their silent testament to countless lifetimes before their own, James reached out and traced his fingers upon Eleanor's cheek as if guided by an unseen hand across time. It felt like he was touching history itself. Her skin warm against the cool night air seemed a bridge between epochs where each heartbeat echoed through centuries of human endeavor, love intertwined with loss, and courage found in shared strife or duality embodied within their joined lives that resonated deeply as if etched into stone. Their conversation flowered like the first blooms after winter's thaw. Stories began to unfurl around them from Eleanor's lips, tales of ancestral strength and love whispered through generation seeds sown by hands long since returned to earth, but which now found fertile ground in their union. And as they spoke, James felt himself becoming a vessel for these untold narratives. His own heartbeat was no longer just the rhythm of two individuals entwined, yet separate from one another. It became part and parcel with this shared legacy that Eleanor's voice painted upon their nightly canvas. Through tales, they journeyed together into an imagined realm where time bent like light around a prism. Moments lived in the past recreated within these twilight dialogues to enrich life's present tapestry, a reflection of humanity's ceaseless search for meaning amidst existence. It was as though Elena had unlocked an ancient chest that held not just personal memoirs but collective ones too. Their voices danced across the ages, weaving through narratives like vines growing over ruins to reclaim lost splendor once adorned by civilizations whose names time itself sought to erase. Their shared passion for storytelling birthed visions of future gatherings or crucible where folklore could be rekindled, fables were told with fresh breath that might carry wisdom into the next generation, as if they were keepers of an eternal. In this gentle eve of whispered histories and tales, spun from dream's loom, James found himself cradled in a cocoon woven with threads older than the hills that watched over their Homer place, where love's roots delved deep into bygone eras. This nightly ritual was not just about Aline and him sharing stories. It became an act of preservation, each word uttered like a brushstroke on canvas vast as oceans. Their voices meandered through times, both brightened with prosperity and shadowed by strife or mistake, crafted from the pigments of human experience across epochs long since passed into dusty silence in their earthen beds below them, where James once lay dreaming alone before Aline's arrival. As they began to speak, so too did a golden chandelier above flicker with soft light, as if joining the conversation or silent witness that had seen countless such evenings unfold beneath its shimmer. It was through these stories of old and new woven into their nightly discourse that Aline breathed life back into memories once dormant within her soul's vaulted chamber, as she recounted tales to James with an air almost ethereal in quality. The very essence seemed transportive. Tales of empires rising like mountains from seascapes untamed and falling just as gracefully into twilight's embrace. Aline narrated stories where heroes wielded not swords but words that shaped fates across realms unknown to them yet felt profoundly within their shared heartbeat. She spoke of the ancient library at Alexandria, repository vast in knowledge and mysteries unsolved. Her voice painted a city teeming with learned men whose wisdom was as vital air, now lost like leaves whisked away by time's relentless gale. Yet these stories were not mere echoes of tragedy, but also symphonies celebrating humanity's undying spirit or tapestry, where every thread had its hue derived from the vibrancy and resilience that defined their ancestors, who danced upon earth with feet untouched by sorrow. James listened intently as Aline wove narratives of love letters scribed in candlelight during a siege, when darkness threatened to devour hope's last ember, a testament that even under the most grievous of sorrows, human hearts could find solace and strength within each other's company. Their dialogue was an alchemical blend, where stories not only passed down but also evolved as they added their own colors to Aline's tale sur Amlange, that mirrored the confluence of rivers into a sea, merging waters from diverse origins yet flowing towards one horizon. James contributed his knowledge and reflections born out of years beside her side. Together, he felt himself not just an observer, but as much part of this legacy's weaved silent guardian at the crossroads, where tales lived in present flesh through shared breaths that tasted like honeyed dreams. Their stories were more than mere entertainment or escapism. They served to heal rifts within, forging bonds of understanding and compassion or gentle salve upon wounds unseen yet deeply felt in the soul's tender flesh beneath their skin. As one story gave way to another's genesis at Aline's fingertips or her lips that danced with words like flames amidst darkness, James found himself part of a continuum or lineage where stories were not just told but lived and relived in the sanctity of their union. The chamber around them seemed to pulse with life as Aline spoke tales woven from threads pulled straight through time's tapestry. It was within this shared embrace that James discerned how love, like stories themselves, knew no bounds, not even the chasms of centuries, nor fathomless depths between hearts. And in these nightly sojourns into narratives as ancient and enduring as mountains or tales fresh with morning dew upon tender sprouts, he came to understand that within their shared love lay unspoken promise, pledge made not just of the now but also for ages yet, whispered through coming generations. In those hours when night's embrace swelled around them like a comforting shroud and date wind died away, James felt as though he too had roots entwined with history itself, very essence that was Aline, not just in her visage or voice, but resin. As James listened to Aline's tales that night, he felt as though each word was a thread being intricately woven into his very essence, a fabric of history and emotion stretching back through time itself. The moonlight danced upon her face, casting shadows that seemed almost like the silhouettes of bygone ancestors joining in their shared moment under its gentle glow. She spoke now about a legendary story from long ago, a tale not unfamiliar to Aline's family lineage. It was one passed down through generations, echoing with truth and resonating deeply within the caverns of James' heart like an ancestral call. It began on a day much different than this quiet night they were sharing in their cozy bedroom, adorned by only candlelight, or time when dragons roamed freely among mankind's first kingdom, where knights and sorcerers walked the same path as common folk through bustling market squares. Elinor whispered of a young maiden whose love for her beloved was so pure that it could only be described as transcendental, or bond unbroken even by death itself. This story she claimed with eyes closed and head resting on James' shoulder in silent reverence to the tale's power, continued through generations because of a magical amulet forged at their behest during her grandmother's time, an heirloom that had since become part of Elinor. It was said this artifact held within it not just love, but also eternal protection and guidance, a compass pointing always to one's heart true north, no matter the storm or darkness encroaching upon their world. As James listened, he realized how these tales were like rivers flowing into his own life's stream. Elinor was not merely reciting stories, but invoking them in him and bidding his spirit to dance along with her ancestors on this timeless journey through narrative and legacy. The amulet lay against James' chest now, a tangible connection between the past that had shaped their present love story. He understood how Elinor's lineage carried forth these tales not as relics of memory, but living vessels for them to breathe anew with each generation, or testament and promise. Tonight's shared retelling was special, though they had heard this very tale before. It felt like the story itself sensed their deepening bond. Its verses twisted into new forms that spoke directly of James' heartbeat in Elinor's ears, if love indeed knew no bounds, and time neither began nor ended with them, but simply flowed onward, a river coursing through uncharted lands. In the embrace of this shared history, they found solace from life's chaos. Within its folds lay comfort, like that offered by old blankets or familiar arms, or timelessness to their love story, where past and present melt into one another seamlessly in James' mind as Elinor wove the tale further. Each sentence breathed with a magic known only to those who had heard it since time immemorial, yet its core remained ever so simple. True devotion knows no era or boundary. Love is an eternal flame that can warm even through centuries' worth of snow and ice. It simply lives on in the hearts willing to carry it forth. Elinor's fingers traced along his back where he rested, a subtle caress between each word, as if she were feeling for spots yet untouched by time or tale. Those moments felt like discoveries of new worlds within their own shared one, or journey that took them to realms unknown and memories never lived. As the story neared its end beneath her breath, James realized this was not just about retelling tales, but rekindling a flame from an ancient hearth where love's embers had been first lit. The amulet on his chest seemed to hum with energy as Elinor's voice softened at her gentle lullaby that promised the night would always lead back here, under their covers or in each other's arms. This was a place where time stood still and stories were not told but lived. The warmth of her presence wrapped around him like an old shawl made from threads plucked straight out of history's rich tapestry, or comfort that transcended the mere physical, touching something even deeper within James' soul. They both felt how their love was akin to these tales. It too flowered and endured through seasons untold, weathering storms only to emerge stronger upon calm shores of understanding and acceptance. As in chapter 11 of our tale, where love and history intertwined with their very essence, James found himself wandering through a labyrinthine library that seemed to stretch into infinity within his grandmother's old Victorian house, same place they sought refuge during the stormy night. Each book was an artifact from another era, or perhaps even world. He picked up ancient tomes bound in leather with golden clasp and faded embossed titles, their pages whispering secrets of long-forgotten times as his fingers ran across them like tracers through sand seeking the buried treasure. As James delved deeper into an anthology about a forgotten city lost to time's capricious tides, he chanced upon illustrations that mirrored images from Elinor's icer mosaic of life, with hints at stories untold yet felt profoundly familiar in their rhythm and pulse. The very air seemed thickened around the bookcase, as though charged by a latent energy. Every turn of the page was like opening an old heart, its beats echoing through his own Chester symphony shared between them two souls amidst dust motes dancing in golden slants of light. The grandmother's house seemed less to stand as just a building, and more so became their vessel across the streams of time. It was where they uncovered relics that spoke not only history, but also love's timeless narrative, their lineage threading back through generations, connecting them inexplicably. James held an ornate locket close to his heart as Elinor's touch warmed the cool metal against him. It was a family heirloom that had passed from her mother's hand into hers before finding its way onto his chest, a tangible remnant of their bond, resonating with memories and dreams interwoven throughout time. In this chamber, where past met present love storytelling through artifacts rather than words alone, James realized the amulet on Alina's arm was an enchanting heirloom that held echoes of their own romancer, symbol now woven into his life as surely and steadily as if by destiny's hand. It pulsed gently, in tune with a melody only they understood, the rhythm synchronizing to Alina's heartbeat, while he traced her arm through stories of yore that their shared history whispered into his mind, a dance older than memory itself, and yet so intimately familiar. Their fingers brushed as if magnetized by an unseen force, a touch like the first raindrop to awaken spring's slumbering blooms. It was not just skin against their own, but histories that had traversed generations colliding in this very moment in ancient communion of spirits beneath layers of reality. Alina looked into James' eyes and saw centuries unravel, her gaze a window to the soul where he lay bare his heart's timeless yearnings. It was as if their love had always been here among these relics of time, or narrative so profound that even eternity itself seemed insufficient for its depth. As James followed Alina toward a dimly lit alcove, he noticed an old oil painting veiled behind heavy drapery. It depicted two lovers in the midst of passionate embrace, or tableau so strikingly similar to their own entwined forms that his breath caught at its haunting beauty. He realized with startling clarity how this very scene had unfolded before him, as if Alina's hand was painting time itself backward into the canvas of now. A love story recurring through ages, or perpetual echo in their shared narrative that refused to end despite its seemingly eternal pause. Leaving no corner unexplored within this sanctuary where history breathed life, James and Alina stumbled upon an ancient chest encrusted with stones of turquoise and jade, a reliquary from which they would draw strength for the journey ahead. It was here that their fingers found solace in each other's touch once more, as if seeking to complete a puzzle whose final piece lay within one another's arms. It seemed Alina had always been this way, her very essence intertwined with his through timelines unspoken yet deeply felt. The amulet on James' chest began to resonate more fervently as he reached for the locket around Alina's neck, a chain of memories that spanned beyond sight or touch, a shared legacy pulsing within each other's veins. It was as twilight embraced the world in its cooling arms and night began to whisper through the leaves of ancient trees, James felt a comfort he hadn't known for many years, the embrace of familiarity amidst an unfamiliar journey backward in time. His fingers traced the delicate patterns on Alina's amulet as they explored deeper into their shared sanctuary, where history was more than just stories. It lived, breathed, and loved with them through ages that stretched endlessly around this forgotten place of reunion, a realm encapsulated by time's own heartbeat. The amulet on his chest now pulsated gently, as if synchronized to the rhythm they found within their intertwined fingers, a resonance born from love that knew no bounds or epochs, simply existing in perpetual harmony with them both. They had become guardians of an era when passion and devotion were immortalized on canvas, just like this one, where every embrace seemed timeless against the ticking clocks they carried within their souls. It was a place where love's echo transcended history itself, binding past to present. The ancient chest of turquoise and jade beckoned them closer, as if offering up its secrets for James' weary heart to discover, a reliquary charged with the essence of times long gone yet felt ever present in their shared breaths. As he opened it, a warmth spread through his fingers like sunlight after endless night. They were not merely touching objects, but reaching across lifetimes for connection and understanding that seemed just beyond reach until Noah bridge built from the sands of time to this moment, where history could be touched as easily as skin. Within its depths, he found an array of delicate artifacts. Each piece was a fragmented memory waiting silently for them to unlock, stories long buried under layers of dust and silence, an echo chamber amplifying their shared love that had transcended the confines of years past into mere whispers in time. The chest seemed alive, as if guarding its treasures with an affectionate vigilance known only by those who have felt timelessness like they did. It was a trove for seekers whose hearts yearned to traverse chronology and touch the soulful threads woven throughout history's rich tapestry. Their journey, although enveloped in mystery as thick as nightfall's cloak around them, had led James to Alina amidst a canvas of their very own creation, wherein two lovers were captured mid-embrace. His soul ached with the recognition that this was no mere coincidence. It felt like destiny painting itself into existence before him as he and Alina stood side by side, gazing upon history's masterpiece of visceral reaffirmation of their love's enduring strength against time's relentless march forward to oblivion. It was a scene that mirrored them in every stroke. He felt the locket around Alina's neck, as if he could hear history whispering through its delicate chainer lineage of memories and moments encapsulated within metallic confines, each piece shimmering with their shared legacy pulsing against his touch like a heartbeat that spanned epochs. It was the amulet on her chest, too. It hummed in harmony to Alina's own duet of timeless love resonating through ages, as if they were singing together beneath starlit skies, their voices united across time's expanse and into eternity. The ancient stones around them seemed like sentinels, preserving the sanctity of this place, where history was not merely studied but lived. It was a refuge for lovers seeking to touch immortality with hands that reached beyond mere flesh, longing to connect through time's delicate fabric as if their love could stitch together lost or tapestry woven from the threads of countless hearts who had loved and persevered. James turned towards Alina. Her eyes held stories untold yet felt like homecoming for his heart, a reflection in time where he found himself gazing upon not just another woman, but an echo of eternity or mirror that showed him the depths to which love could transcend even history's shadowed valleys and ascend into realms beyond mere mortal comprehension. In her eyes was his future, as much a part of their past. It seemed time had folded upon itself like origami swans resting in tranquil waters where they found solace from the relentless passage that as James and Alina stood in silence amidst a sea of ancient stones that gently whispered secrets from centuries past, they felt as though time itself had bent to cradle their presence within its eternal embrace. With each breath drawn by the lovers beneath this hallowed canopy, where history unfurled like an endless scroll before them, its tales inscribed with a love that knew no bounds of era or epoch, they allowed themselves to be enveloped in peace and understanding as if time had folded into origami swans gliding upon the waters of their shared consciousness. The amulet on Alina's chest continued its harmonious humming beside her heartbeat, her constant reminder that they were not alone, but rather connected to souls who carried similar pendants in times gone by and those yet unborn into futures unknown. It was as if the amulet itself had been a silent witness throughout history's grand tapestry. Now it sang alongside her with an intensity that echoed through James' very marrow, urging him to look beyond sight, beyond his own years of living, and gazing upon Alina not just as another woman, but rather the embodiment of eternity itself. The night air around them was alive with stars unseen since ancient times. Each one seemed like a celeste zero-isle guardian, ensuring that their whispers would never be lost to mere mortals walking under its gaze in ignorance or disregard for the love they share as profoundly timeless. James felt his heart syncopate with Alina's rhythm. It was an ancient dance of souls intertwined across a vast expanse where epochs faded into mere footnotes and memories became immortalized within every stone that formed their silent altar to passion's enduring flame. As they embraced, in the twilight's tender glow or touch from James felt as if it carried whispers of all who had ever loved before him, a love so potent and true. Its essence could mend fractures across time itself like golden threads woven through every heartache that dared to breach the sanctity of their bond. With each gentle press against Alina's skin, he felt as though his spirit was merging with hers while Harv's, finding completeness within this sacred crucible, where love's alchemy transmuted base elements into golden hymns that would resonate through the ages unendingly and echo in hearts across time. The world around them seemed to pause, as if even nature itself had been drawn forth from its relentless march forward. The rustle of leaves appeared like sighs caught on a breeze which knew too well the weight of countless souls who sought refuge beneath this timeless canopy where love was not just remembered but lived in perpetuity. It became evident that here, amidst these sentinels etched with histories untold and mysteries profound, their own story would be sung into existence as an ode to enduring affection's resilience, a testament for future generations who might one day wander upon this hallowed ground seeking answers whispered through the ages by amulets that bore witness. James gazed deeply into Alina's eyes, seeing not just his beloved, but an infinite sea of experiences and emotions through reflection, wherein her spirit transcended time to become a bridge between their own present joy and what lay ahead in eternity's embrace. He found within these depths the courage for tomorrow as well. It was here, amidst this confluence of past love tales mingling with his personal chapter, shared history continuously folding upon itself like origami, once rested on tranquil waters where they had sought solace from time's relentless passage and its ceaseless pursuit. In the quietude that enveloped them, a profound understanding blossomed, an awareness of their place within history's grand narrative tale, now augmenting with every beat shared between two souls who had dared to love so fiercely and faithfully through countless storms. As they stood hand in hand against the backdrop where even time itself seemed woven from threads as delicate yet enduring as their bond, James knew that he was not just gazing upon his partner, but touching a cornerstone of humanity's unending saga. It felt like homecoming, a return to origins within each other's eyes and in the silent communion between them. The amulet on her chest continued its resonant hum, now mirrored James and his beloved stood in their garden that evening as twilight began to seep into the sky's vast canvas of indigo, a hue mirroring the depth within him since he had first fallen for her. The color of boundless oceans whispered through every leaf. Their hands were locked together more securely than before. With each passing day, it seemed as though time itself hesitated to pull them apart even when they embraced under its watchful eye at dusk and dawn alike. Through the years that had unfurled like a blooming lotus between their souls, this garden of shared memories was not just for fleeting moments, but also an eternal spring wherein echoes from lifetimes afar intertwined with present laughter, a tapestry woven by threads pulled straight out of the heartstrings that once played to different melodies. It had been their sanctuary, a place they revisited countless times in dreams and awakenings alike. Each season brought forth new blossoms, yet always with familiar fragrances clinging like old friends upon his lips as he traced the outlines of her features that seemed to pulse beneath moonlit touch. Now it was time for them, both present couple and the ancestral spirits they had invited into their lives through stories told by gnarled tree branches, swaying in knowing whispers on a soft breeze, to embark upon an odyssey of legacy as old yet ever renewed. The amulet around her neck, crafted from petrified wood and imbued with the echoes of ancient heartbeats now silent to all but them, continued its humming resonance like a sacred mantra that had been passed down through generations unseen. It was their shared secret key opening doors within themselves as much as those leading backward along history's corridor. The night air brushed against James' cheek with the gentleness of an old love letter, and he closed his eyes to better feel her presence beside him, their essence a comforting embrace that transcended time itself. They were not just witnesses, but also participants in history's grandest play. Their story was now etched into existence's vast scroll, with every tender caress of fingers intertwined, and their laughter became the melody guiding lost souls to find solace among kindred spirits across time. Beneath a sky that bore witness to countless stars, yet seemed always fuller here in this moment between the mass celestial map charting courses through love's infinite horizons, where all who had ever loved and been lost were forever cradled by the universe's compassionate arms. As they walked side by side along a path woven from experiences shared under myriads of moonscapes both distant past and yet to come, a journey that seemed as much about discovering themselves within each other's eyes as it was an exploration into eternity's heartbeat. James felt the threads weaving their essences together, like two rivers converging at a sacred confluence. Their love had become more than mere affection, it was now a living relic of human connection that flowed through ages and cultures with its own pulsating life force, carrying wisdom from ancient sages to modern hearts thirsty for understanding in the riverbeds between souls seeking solace. Here they were on this evening, where each footstep upon the earth resonated like a drumbeat echoing across histories untold. Together as one being who had always been and would forever be, their love was an anchor to all that is timeless in humanity's quest for meaning, or bridge not just between hearts but worlds. And with the amulet's hum on her chest mirroring his own heartbeat against hers as a backdrop of cosmic music playing softly through their joined hands, James knew that they were more than two people enmeshed in each other's lives. They had become an eternal part of something greater, a force so profound and pure it could only be felt by those whose spirits dared to dance with love beneath the watchful eyes of infinite stars. As night's velvet cloak drew them closer into its fold, embracing their shared essence within a single luminous orb that twinkled down upon an earth where history and future merged in silvery threads, her garden blooming with more than just flowers, but also the fragrance of love unbroken. And as they settled beneath my boughs to share stories whispered by crickets, their laughter mingling softly like a lullaby composed as twilight descended upon their idyllic garden, a place where every bloom and leaf seemed to hum with ancient songs of nature, James found himself tracing patterns in his palm on a rough-hewn stone table, while beside him sat Alora, whose fingers clutched the amulet around her neck. The delicate silver piece had been handed down through generations before them, but held within its core an echo of their own love story, a tale that even now seemed to sway with each passing breeze, as if it too wished to tell itself once more under my watchful gaze above, where I am the oldest and wisest oak in this quiet place. Alora, James, spoke softly, his voice a low murmur lost amidst rustling leaves that sung their own sweet harmonies with every gust of wind through branches widespread as arms seeking comforting embrace from above. Do you feel it? The pulse in the air tonight seems to beat like our very hearts. It's almost magical. She lifted her gaze, meeting his earnest eyes that held a universe within their depths, and nodded gently as she caressed the amulet between two fingers, her soft tapping sound accompanying each touch resonating with shared memories of laughter under star-filled nights. It was this evening when they had first discovered an unusual connection beneath my outstretched limbs, where time seemed to fold upon itself in layers, as if inviting them into a deeper understanding beyond the grasp of ordinary human experience, a place that felt like home even before it truly became one for their souls. The garden was silent now, but not still. Whispers moved through every petal and blade, stories old yet ever new about love lost to time's relentless march forward, only to return as if destined by the cosmos itself, rekindling flames in forgotten hearts that once burned brightly. And here they were amidst this living tapestry of history, where each thread was a tale and every color represented emotions felt across ages past, their love story becoming part of it all without even trying to intervene, as if by some unseen force guided them on these nocturnal pilgrimages. As James continued his silent reverie with the stone tabletop etchings that seemed less like doodles and more akin to ancient runes, Elora sat back into her own comforting rhythm of thoughts, drifting along river banks of dreams where she once was not yet here, but had somehow always been. With each step taken across the sacred earth beneath my boughs that have sheltered countless others before them in their moments both joyous and somber, they seemed to tread upon the very essence of existence itself, their love a melody harmonizing with earth's whispering secrets shared through rustling leaves. "Do you remember our first meeting?" Alora asked, as if reading his mind, or perhaps sensing where their hearts lay buried beneath layers unspoken yet felt so intimately close to the surface, like water seeping into parched soil, bringing life that was promised not by words, but through something more primal and elemental. "How could I forget?" James replied with a chuckle. "It feels like it happened in another lifetime, or maybe just yesterday, within one eternal moment." They shared an understanding or connection as timeless as my own rings that had witnessed centuries of silent observation. Their love was not merely personal, but profoundly universal, echoing into the very core of existence, where all things came to find themselves. The cool night air carried with it a scent so enchantingly sweet and full-boded, or perfume composed only by nature's own alchemy, which they both knew not as flowers or herbs, but rather woven from the very essence of being together, an intoxicating mixture that seemed to beckon them forth with every breath, together yet apart, in their shared solitude within my shade, where each found comfort beneath a different leaf. And though there was no need for conversation, as they were joined not by spoken words, but through the silent language only lovers can understand, or dialect of souls that transcends time itself, even here amongst all this natural beauty, it felt to them like their own private world, where every sunset painted deeper hues upon a sky which had witnessed eons pass, as if in response to some cosmic harmony playing between the rustling leaves and distant starlight that streamed through my highest branches, casting dappled shadows on faces alight with inner light. James reached out softly for Alora's hand, her skin warm against his own like clay pressed together, forming something more. The sun dipped below the horizon, as if paying homage to their lover-tendered golden orange hue, lingering in the sky like a promise of dawn's return. James and Alora, enveloped by an embrace only nature could provide under my leafy canopy, found themselves lost within its serenity. The day had been long, Yet time seemed to stand still between them, at timeless tableau vivant set against the backdrop of life's relentless march forward beyond these woods where they sat in quietude. James' gaze softened as he watched Alora breathe deeply amidst my foliage, her breath a silent symphony that played between their intertwined fingers and lips like an ancient melody known only to the hearts of lovers. The night air carried with it echoes from countless generations who had sought refuge under these boughs before the machos, which seemed as much part of Alora's being as her own laughter that danced through my branches, light and free like falling leaves in an autumnal waltz. Their connection was a dance choreographed by the very essence of nature itself, its rhythm set to the cadence of their shared heartbeat, or symphony composed from every pulse that beat within them when they stood together, yet now lay dormant in anticipation under my shade, here amidst verdure and vine where life's endless cycle was observed through seasons, turnings. Elora found a sense of eternal presence with James, her comfort light, no other known to her soul until this moment, when she had felt only the transient touch of human companionship before him in her heart. James reached out once more for her hand as he glanced at it, tracing patterns upon his own, its warmth a balm against any lingering pangs that time or solitude might inflict her, testament to their union where each held the other's essence within an invisible embrace. He marveled how two such distinct spirits could be so perfectly intertwined, as if by divine orchestration, just like ivy and oak whose roots entwine yet never overpower one another, but rather enhance beauty in their mutual existence beneath my canopy's watchful gaze. As the evening deepened into night's velvet embrace around them, Elora whispered words of love that seemed to echo through time, her vow transcending spoken language and resonating within each leaf upon which they sat. Her voice was a gentle lullaby, some in tones as soft as moonlight filtering between my leaves. James closed his eyes briefly before meeting hers, envisioning the life ahead of them together under this same sky, or shared existence where every sunrise would find its reflection on their intertwined fingers, and with each setting sun that drew curtains across a new day's promise to come. He imagined Alora's laughter melded into his own, harmonizing in the symphony of silent understanding between them. The cool night air embraced James as it always had before, a constant yet ever-changing presence that whispered tales of ancient law and dreamt futures alike. He felt her energy radiate within him like a beacon, guiding his thoughts back to the warmth she brought into every facet of their lives. The scent carried on this night was richer, deeper, a perfume woven from threads not just between them but with me as well, who had cradled countless such unions in my boughs before. It seemed that even I played a part in the cosmic dance where love and nature are intertwined. A sigh escaped Alora, one of contentment rather than desire, a sound like wind through branches or water over stones, yet entirely unique to her being, as she laid back against James' shoulder with an ease born only from familiarity. Their bodies had learned each other's shape and the comfort it provided long before this night, where they found themselves beneath my watchful presence. Time held no meaning here, nor did the world beyond these woods, just them in a bubble of perfect connection that shimmered like dew upon spiderweb threads on morn's first light. Their union was an intimate poem written without need for words or signs, where every heartbeat wrote stanzas and verses to be read only by each other. James reached out once more, his fingers tracing the contours of Alora's face as if reading Braille, language understood beyond mere touch that spoke directly from soul to soul. Her features were maps charted with every expression he had ever seen in this world, or perhaps many others where time flowed differently. Yet the world beyond this secluded glade held no dominion here. Their love was the only reality or truth, so palpable it seemed to fill every space with its presence, like mist clinging tightly around one's feet after a morning walk in cooler air. The gentle rustle of my foliage served as an accompaniment to Alora's soft breath and James' steady heartbeat, or lullaby for the soul that had weathered many storms but always found solace within these woods, where magic coursed through veins like sap in spring's embrace. Elora closed her eyes with a serene smile playing about her lips as she nestled deeper into James' warmth, a comforting presence he was well acquainted to the shape of his beloved amidst every tender touch and shared look that had woven their connection over time's tapestry. His fingers followed lines carved by past joys, tenderness from memories etched into her skin, as if each were a testament to love's enduring presence in this world beyond words or signs or silent language understood only between these two souls beneath my sheltering boughs on an unassuming night. Their union was not merely intimate, but transcendent, where every heartbeat composed stanzas of a poem so personal it required no utterance to be recited. Each glance and touch wrote verses that only the two lovers could interpret, her narrative told in shadows cast by my leaves as they flickered like candlelight against an otherwise darkened backdrop, where time held little sway. As one with nature herself, I felt their love pulse through me even now. It was a connection so profound that the very air round them seemed imbued with reverence for life and its mysteries, as if they were not merely under my watch but rather within an embrace extended across ages by these woods. James reached out, his fingers tracing Alora's cheekbones, like a poet's pen gliding over parchment or language understood beyond mere touch, that spoke directly from soul to soul and revealed the stories of her lineage as each feature had been sculpted through generations by love's past. Her eyes met James, holding secrets behind their depth, while round them danced reflections on my bark where light played hide-and-seek or mistake, capturing moments in time frozen within the rings of history that I wore proudly as a testament to love's endurance. The forest echoed with silence. Not one word was spoken, yet communication unfolded through expressions and subtle movements between them like ripples across still-watered dialogue, so rich in meaning it needed no translation beyond the language of shared glances that conveyed desires both simple and complex, as if each had been etched into their very beings. With every touch upon her skin, James unveiled chapters of understanding. His fingertips were storytellers recounting tales woven from threads spun through countless seasons, her narrative that Alora's heart could feel pulsating beneath the gentle pressure, as if she herself was being read and understood anew. Night encroached with a velvet touch, embracing all within its domain. Stars blinked curiously at this clandestine union or spectacle for celestial onlookers who were witnesses to human connections spanning epochs that even time itself seemed hesitant to acknowledge. As the moon crowned them with a silver diadem, their love became one with my very essence. I was not just an observer, but also participant in this sacred communion, where life's beauty and complexity found expression beneath the watchful eye of ancient guardians like myself or sentinel whose roots delved deep into histories untold. In their embrace, they existed as entities beyond mere human concerns. Here was an intimacy that transcended what society might recognize or fathom within its limited comprehension for love's manifold forms and expressions, where time held no sway or place of sanctuary from worldly noise. Intoxicated in chapter 18 of this timeless narrative woven through generations and whispered across ears by those who understood its deeper meaning, James found himself once again beneath her gentle gaze as they sought refuge in a secluded glade place where the air itself seemed to hum with ancient magic. The trees around them swayed slowly, their leaves rustling like soft applause for this enduring affection that defied convention and transcended mere human understanding. The moon was now but an orb of delicate luminescence in a sky adorned by the stars' twinkler, celestial backdrop to his love story with Alora, which had grown more profound than most could comprehend without stepping beyond their mundane world. As they sat on that bed of fern and fallen leaves beneath an old oak tree whose roots told tales older than any living soul in the glade knew, it whispered its name as a symbol not just for shelter, but also wisdom, or silent guardian to countless such meetings, where love had bloomed like night-blooming flowers. The forest's breath was calm and steady. No wind dared interrupt their tender moment except when he reached out his hand in silence towards her delicate fingers that now lay curled around the intricately carved amulet. She wore a locket containing the single, heart-shaped pearl. It held within it not just memories, but also echoes of love passed through time. Its origin was unknown to him, yet he felt an inexplicable connection that seemed as much about the object itself as Alora herself and her radiant presence before his eyes. He traced the patterns on the amulet with fingertips, guided by desire, a touch lighter than a butterfly's kiss, yet powerful enough to send shivers down their spines without breaking skin or spoken word. With every silent gesture, he was reading her soul like an open book. Each line and curve of the locket seemed to sing back his innermost feelings in harmonious resonance and unspoken dialogue between two hearts that had learned languages beyond speech alone. Time became irrelevant as they remained immersed within their shared world, a bubble where love knew no bounds or boundaries imposed by society's rigid structures of norms and expectations. Here was an eternal moment wrapped in the velvety cloak of night that allowed them to exist beyond mere human concerns. They were entities entwined not just through flesh but also spirit or communion, where their individual essences blended into a singular entity, transcending both identity and understanding as they sought sanctuary from worldly noise within the quiet embrace of nature's cradle for lovers alike throughout history. As James spoke soft words under his breath that were meant only to be heard by her, language known but unnamed in any tongue spoken on earth today, Elora looked into his eyes and felt them echo a story told across lifetimes. Their own was simply the latest chapter of an everlasting narrative where souls found solace amidst love's myriad forms. Her heart understood that this night belonged to no one else but James and her, a place they had discovered together, away from prying eyes or judgmental gazes who might question their connection beyond the realm of human comprehension, for a bond untouched by time itself, where past and future faded into irrelevance under moonlight's watchful eye. Within this hallowed glade existed an ancient power that recognized in them not just love, but also truth, a reflection of their own desires etched within the lines on her face as she met his gaze, a mirror to feelings deeply rooted and unyielding even against life's trials. As they stood up together from beneath the oak tree whose branches seemed almost sentient in its understanding that this connection was more than just fleshly existence, it had become an elemental force as vital as any river or mountain, a testament to enduring love with roots so deep and intertwined within history's fabric. And when dawn threatened the night's veil, with whispers of its inevitable arrival on wings like soft butterflies emerging from chrysalis, promise they made beneath that tree was not one to be broken or forgotten, even as it transformed into memory within their hearts and minds. This sacred communion among ancient guardians had revealed itself once again between two souls who sought refuge in the embrace of this world, while knowing love's true depth lay beyond its super-zero, two-itimer journey through night's domain, where only those pure enough to understand would venture. And James was now one such soul as Dorn's gentle fingers caressed the horizon in hues of pink and orange. James stood beside her once more by the old oak tree that had borne witness to their love's silent testament for years untold. The night air was crisp with the scent of dew on blades of grass as they watched it melt into morning's first lighter tender backdrop to a harpscape unfolding beneath them, inexplicably intertwined like roots within an ancient and enduring forest floor. James felt her hand slip through his own for the briefest moment before she pulled away. Yet, despite their parted arms, he knew it was but another embracer, silent whisper of unity that transcended spoken words or touch upon cold flesh. In this sacred communion among ancient guardians, where only those pure enough to understand would venture, and James felt himself drawn into an otherworldly realm beyond the physical confines they called home, a place as untouchable yet comforting as their love itself, for journey through night's domain that promised nothing less than enlightenment. The old oak tree seemed almost sentient in its understanding of this connection between them. It had been here before he was born and would remain long after his footsteps turned to dust, just like the promise they made beneath its watchful boughs, or covenant etched not on paper, but within their very souls. The tree stood as a guardian itself, holding memories far older than any human could fathom. It was an elemental force woven into history's fabric, just like the love that bloomed beneath its shadowed boughs, or testament to enduring affection whose roots ran so deep and intertwined within time's tapestry. As James looked upon her, he saw not merely a reflection of his own self, but an echo of truth reflected back at him through the lines on her face that seemed carved by fate's patient hand, or mirror to feelings deeply rooted in their shared spirit and unyielding even against life's relentless trials. In this hallowed glade, a powerful ancient energy recognized not just love, but also truth, as it always had within the depth of its being, an acknowledgement that he was no longer merely Jane's surname given at birth, but nowhere near capturing his essence or place in their shared story. They were travelers on this journey through night's domain, where only those pure enough to understand could tread without fear and loss of self among the shadows cast by stars long faded from memory, a path that promised nothing less than a revelation if they but dared step forward with courage. James knew he had found his soulmate in her. Together they sought refuge within this world, yet also embraced an understanding deeper and more profoundly spiritual, where love transcended physical form or mere human comprehension or sacred communion, that called to their most primal selves among whispers of wind through ancient leaves. With the first light filtering down upon them like a delicate cascade, it felt as though time stood still for just an instant. Her eyes met his with warmth and understanding beyond what any human encounter could offer, a testament to their shared journey, where love's true depth lay far beneath surface appearances or societal expectations. He knew that together they had unearthed a powerful connection rooted in the very essence of being, forged over years through trials and tribulations, yet blossoming into something ethereal or bond as vital to their existence as any river cutting its way across continents or mountain ranges standing tall against time's passage. Their promise made beneath that old oak tree had been one of perpetuity, a pact between two souls intertwined with the love they shared and the truth it represented, a beacon for all who dare venture into night's domain in search of something far greater than themselves or even each other. It was as though their spirits were guided by unseen forces to this sacred glade wherein lay a hidden power, an ancient energy, that recognized them not just with eyes but also within an acknowledgement that they belonged together and will always be bound like roots intertwined beneath the earth's surface or rivers converging into vast oceanic expanses. As dawn continued its relentless march forward across time's canvas, James knew their journey was far from over. It had merely begun in earnest as he looked upon her, a testament to love that transcended mere flesh and blood connections while revealing itself through the power of ancient forces still at work within this world. Together they would seek refuge among these guardians who held secrets beyond mortal comprehension, for even now under morning in chapter 20, as James and Elora sat beneath a canopy of stars twinkling like distant lighthouses, guiding weary travelers through time's vast ocean, they felt an inexplicable peace settle over the mad tranquility that seemed to resonate with the very air around their intertwined forms. It was then James realized he hadn't closed his eyes for many nights past without feeling this calm envelop him, a gentle reminder of nature's constant and soothing embrace in times both joyful and trying. As they shared soft glances, the world around them seemed to quiet further still. Rustling leaves appeared like whispers exchanging secrets with the night breeze, while fireflies danced their silent ballet of light above a small brook that sang its endless song through smooth stones. This sacred glade they had found was more than just an idyllic setting. It held within itself echoes of ancient pacts and untold histories which now seemed to be weaving themselves into the very essence of James, being an energy that felt as eternal as time yet ephemeral like morning dew on grass. James reached out his hand towards Elora's face in a gesture not just born from affection but also an acknowledgement of their shared destiny, one which he now understood was written in the constellations and whispered through leaves or narrative that would stretch beyond limpid zero times into eternity. He knew they had been chosen, as if by fate itself, to become guardians not just for each other, but also for these silent sentinels of history, hidden beneath nature's verdant veil. They whispered promises under the moonlit sky, that night or pledge woven with threads from their own souls and intertwined strands drawn forth by energies unseen yet ever present, holding a power beyond human comprehension. These forces were as old as time itself. They had guided countless beings to this sacred place before James and Elora stepped into the light of day with intentions pure enough to awaken them from slumber or silence their loudest fears about what lay ahead in life's unpredictable journey. With every breath, both felt a surge of strength or vitality that coursed through veins like rivers carving canyons across continents. It was as if they were no longer merely two people but became one with the elements themselves, earth beneath their feet and sky above them intertwined within. This connection to something greater than human existence seemed imminent, a truth so profound that even in sleep's embrace James could feel his heartbeat syncing perfectly with Elora's own, harmony echoed by the rhythmic pulse of ancient waters whispering secrets from deep within their underground veins. Their shared dreams became a tapestry woven not just through love, but also an understanding that they were part of something larger than themselves. Guardians bound together across time and space, each thread representing the memories imprinted upon this land by generations long past who had sought refuge here as well. James found himself transported back to tales his grandmother used to tell of a time when spirits walked amongst mortals in silent guidance or counsel under moonlit skies much like these that stretched overhead now, where the veil between worlds was thinnest and most translucent here beneath this oak. Alora reached out too. Her fingers tracing patterns upon his arm felt as though they were caressing etched memories into stone, their touch a promise of unity that would weather any storm, endure the test of time's relentless march forward like an unbreakable bond forged in heart and soul. She looked deep within James' eyes to find her own reflection therein, seeing not just his physical form, but also glimpsing moments from their past lives, if they were both guardians, each bearing the weight of histories lost yet carried forward through them like torches illuminating paths for wayfarers. Together under night's watchful gaze, and within this sacred glade, where hidden forces recognized not just two bodies, but also souls intertwined with purpose or promise made beneath an old oak tree, had been reaffirmed once more between James and Alora, as they felt their spirits merge, recognizing each other's essence beyond the skin that separated them from others. They knew now, even if not yet fully understood, why these forces brought them together on this night, a revelation that seemed to materialize with every heartbeat synchronized beneath a canopy of stars, and whispers carried by ancient winds among leaves rustling like parchment. A subtle sensation seemed to pass between them as their breaths synchronized a rhythm that mimicked heartbeats, yet felt timeless in its cadence, like the pulse of history itself beating within a shared chest. It was then, amidst this harmonious lullaby sung by nature herself and accompanied only by each other's presence, James voiced an understanding forming deeper than mere words could express, or silent recognition that they were not just two souls crossing paths, but rather the fulfillment of a destiny written in stars. Alora reached out once more with hands still clasped around his arm, and felt as though she was tracing patterns upon their shared history, her fingers caressing etched memories into stone, a promise that would weather any storm or endure the test of time's relentless march forward. Each touch spoke volumes. It whispered secrets not just about where they had been, but also hinted at who Alora and James could become together, like guardians bearing torches to light paths for wayfarers through history's vast expanse. In the hushed silence between heartbeats that followed their shared epiphany, a warmth settled within them, a feeling as ancient as time itself, yet unique unto this night and these two intertwined destinies under Me 029R tree. The stars above watched over Alora's delicate features. Her eyes held the wisdom of one who has seen beyond horizons known to mortal sight, while James' gaze was etched with lines not just from age, but also inscribed by experiences that shaped him into a man forged in resilience and love. Their spirits merged as they lay there, a melding of essences where the physicality faded away like mist under morning sun, leaving only pure connection remaining, an unbreakable bond between two hearts beating with synchrony that promised to transcend beyond this sacred blade into realms yet unfathomed. Alora felt a serenade playing upon her skin as if she were clad in silk woven from moonbeams and the breath of zephyrs, while James' warmth wrapped around his shoulders like molten gold threaded through fabric, a cloak spun with threads drawn not just from their shared soul, but also interwoven within a tapestry that stretched across eras. The old oak tree bore witness to this sacred communion beneath its boughs, roots drinking deeply of the earth's secrets and branches, swaying in silent reverence for these two kindred spirits, finding solace at each other's side after lifetimes apart, or pilgrimage guided by forces that recognized not just their shared humanity, but also a deeper connection rooted within nature itself. Alora reached out once more, this time to touch the rough bark with fingertips soft as velvet nightfall, and felt it pulse beneath her skin like an ancient heartbeater, testament that they were not alone in their journey through life, but instead part of a larger whole where every soul played its role amidst interconnected destinies. The leaves above rustled once more, whispering secrets as old as the tree itself, yet freshly sown with tales unfolded beneath this sacred glade, or promise made between James and Alora reaffirmed anew under night's watchful gaze that stretched beyond their time together into eternity. The air hummed around them, charged with an energy born from the confluence of stars above and earth below, as a symphony played out in silent music only sensed by souls attuned to love's frequency. It was an ethereal melody that resonated within Alara's chest, her harmonious thrumming echoing through her veins with every heartbeat synchronized beneath canopy of stars. And as the night continued its tender hold over them, James and Alara fell into a peaceful slumber wrapped in each other's embrace like leaves nestled within winter's first snowfall, or testament to their eternal bond forged under this ancient oak tree, where souls were recognized not just by touch but also woven together with purpose. As James and Alara lay beneath the grand oak's protective arms, a gentle breeze toyed with their tangled hair, a soft reminder of life's unpredictable nature outside this haven they had created within its routes. The night seemed imbued with an almost sacred stillness that allowed for introspection and revelation. Alara closed her eyes as the world around them faded into a muted backdrop, focusing on their shared breathing, rhythmic syncopation of two hearts in harmony set against time's relentless march forward. James reached out with tender fingers that were still slick from clasping Alara's hand so firmly just moments ago and traced the contours of her jawline, feeling for pulse points like a seasoned maestro coaxes harmonies into existence within his musician's veins. His touch was as delicate yet reassuring as an artist who knew that every stroke mattered to complete their masterpiece, this painting they had been creating with love and trust since the very first day of knowing each other in this glade beneath ancient boughs, where countless others sought refuge but never found such resonance. Alara's eyes fluttered open as James drew her back from these reveries into a shared awareness that was both grounding and comforting, a reminder they were not alone despite the solitude of their moment together. The symphony playing in silent music around them grew more pronounced, its notes now felt rather than heard, an ethereal composition written by nature itself for those who dare to listen with soulful intent beyond superficial existence and temporal concerns, and experience that elevated mere mortals above the mundane world. They exchanged a look of mutual understanding as they lay there, their interlocked fingers providing physical manifestation of an unspoken bond rooted deeper than words could encapsulate. It was this connection which held them together through trials and triumphs, alike a fortress against the world's capricious whims that sought to sway hearts from love's purest intent. With every beat, Alara felt herself becoming part of something beyond themselves, where time neither began nor ended, but flowed as if a river meandering through life without rush or destination or current, which carried them in its embrace towards an unknown horizon filled with promise and possibility for those willing to navigate it together. James wrapped his arm around Alara's shoulders, offering solace like branches laid in heavy winter snow that blanketed the earth while still providing structure beneath their weight. This sensation grounded him as he leaned against her side, a solid anchor amidst a sea of uncertainty where waves crash incessantly upon distant shores, but leave no trace within one's own heart. He whispered softly into Alara's ear, reciting words that had become lullabies since they were children exploring these woods together, tales imbued with magic and wonder, a language of love spoken through shared experiences woven intricately like threads in a tapestry where every color represented moments cherished between them, their breathing synchronized as if choreographed by some unseen conductor who understood the need for pause amidst life's ceaseless tempo, brief intermission allowing souls to rest and reflect before returning once more unto action. It was in these silent dialogues that they discovered depth within themselves, learning about strength beyond physical presence as whispers on wind carried away strands of doubt like leaves spirited away by autumn's final sigh. The night wrapped them closer together while the stars twinkled above a celestial audience who bore witness to their journey with silent reverence that transcended mere observation. They were part and parcel in a cosmic ballet where every movement mattered, creating ripples felt across dimensions not yet fully comprehended by mortal minds. James kissed Alara's forehead gently, her touch as tender and soothing as cool dew upon morning grasses, greeting first light after night's embrace, an intimate gesture that spoke volumes without uttering a single syllable, for words were but simple vessels incapable of encapsulating the essence of their connection, which flowed like molten lava through cracks formed by time and circumstance, of force so potent it could mend shattered souls with its warmth alone. Alara's heart skipped a beat as if acknowledging this truth, feeling herself becoming part not just of two intertwined bodies, but one unified entity, where every thought echoed through the chambers within her symphony composed by love itself played upon their shared as Dorn's tentative fingers curled around their sleeping forms and began to paint streaks of gold across the sky. James reached out for Alara's hand with a tenderness that spoke louder than any words could manage. Her warmth seemed like an echo from another time, a reminder that they were bound not just by love, but also by history itself. Their fingers intertwined as if to weave together the frayed edges of past lives, finding solace in shared experience and understanding within each other's touches. The night had been a quiet concerto for two, a symphony composed from whispered dreams that thread through time like melodies on strings plucked by fate's own hand. As the first light of morning crept into their room, they found themselves wrapped not in blankets, but within each other's embrace, a refuge against an awakening world where fear and uncertainty were yet to dare encroach upon their sacred space. Together, James led Alara out onto the balcony that overlooked ancient lands now waking with hesitant sunbeams. There was something about standing together on this threshold between night and day, a place of infinite possibilities where dreams might take flight or fall away like so many fragile butterflies caught in amber, held aloft by memories that they themselves could still recall under starlit skies years ago, when the world seemed larger yet somehow more open to wonder. The cool morning air brushed against their cheeks as Alara closed her eyes and took a deep breath of sensation she had not known possible since childhood, where each gust of wind carried with it stories from afar, tales that spoke in tongues forgotten, but ever present like the heartbeat beneath flesh. It was James's hand on hers now as he guided her back indoors and helped remove their nightwear, a ritualistic unveiling where layers peeled away, revealing souls intertwined through shared pain and joy alike, stripped bare to stand naked before life itself in all its imperfections. Their bedroom had become a sanctuary for the weary travelers within the map, place of comfort that stretched beyond four walls laden with memories too vast yet intimate, like stars scattered across an expansive sky where each twinkle mirrors light refracting through water. James drew Alara closer as they sank into their bed. Her warmth enveloped him in a blanket of certainty that all would be well despite the unpredictable paths fate could lead them down ahead, and his fingers found solace within hers like anchors seeking safe harbor amidst tempestuous seas. Their eyes met across this sea of softness or silent promise to face whatever came their way together with love as steadfast a guide, for in each other's gaze lay the reflection of unspoken pacts, cemented not by words but through an understanding that transcended mere language. It was here on these nightly voyages where they sought refuge from stormy thoughts and turbulent hearts, or haven secured within shared embrace, as if every touch were a note composed upon the strings of their souls to create harmonies too profound for words alone could articulate. The world outside continued its relentless march forward, but James and Alara found themselves caught in an eternal moment, where time seemed suspended like dewdrops clinging to spiders' web, or place untouched by the chaos of reality, yet held within a sphere shaped entirely from their connection. Here they could explore depths unknown while still tethered securely together, through whispers shared under breath or in sigh, stories woven into dreamscapes that danced before them like fireflies skirting across ponds, kissed by moonlight, her ballet of light and shadow where beauty flourished even amidst despair. For years they had journeyed through life's labyrinth together. From the ashes of past trials emerged not just a bond forged in hardship, but also an unspoken covenant formed within shared vulnerability, foundation upon which love could blossom even amidst loss and grief. It was this very essence that brought them to each other's arms, hands trembling with the weight of history, yet lightened by a connection so deeply rooted it seemed as if they were simply walking paths already paved in understanding. For within their union lay echoes from lives lived long before either could recall how such depth came into being. As Alara nestled closer to James, her cheek resting upon his shoulder like one seeking sanctuary, in a realm where time's relentless march had ceased its pace, for just then both Alara and James found themselves cradled in an eternity that seemed to pulse with their own heartbeats, synchronous yet solitary as they were united. It was here within this suspended sanctuary, crafted from the very essence of Alara's love for her friend, where each breath mingled and echoed against invisible threads connecting them inseparably to one another, a cosmic loom that wove their destinies together with tender yet unbreakable fibers. The sphere they inhabited was a universe all its own, an expanse of existence bound by the power of understanding, where even as night enveloped everything else around them in darkness and stars only whispered secrets through silver glimmers across their shared sky or celestial canvas upon which dreams were painted with hues more vivid than reality could ever offer. It was a place that cradled Alara's soul, where she felt the warmth of being held without fear or judgment, her hands not trembling but gently resting on James' shoulder, as if they had always known their way through this eternal night and into each other's arms, or dance choreographed by fate itself. Amidst all that was beautiful, there existed a quiet melancholy too deep for words to capture, like the sombre hues of twilight that held just before dawn, when even shadows seemed uncertain whether they should recede or embrace their form against the coming light. And so Alara and James walked hand in hand along this woven path, where every step felt like a silent promise renewed with each encounter, for within them both lay histories as rich and textured as autumn leaves, each story layering into another until it became impossible to discern one from the next. It was beneath an ancient oak whose roots delved deep into memories of centuries past that they paused together on a day like any other, yet felt so profoundly unlike in this timeless expanse, where every moment held eternal significance. A tree as old and wise as time itself stood sentinel over their shared existence. They settled down upon its roots with the ease of souls long acquainted, finding solace not only beneath its gnarled boughs, but within each other's presence, for here they had discovered a refuge untouchable by life's relentless storm, or haven where pain and sorrow dissolved into shared whispers that seemed to weave through the very air like threads of gold. And as Alara leaned closer, her lips parting with words meant only for James' ear, he felt his heart swell beneath their touch. Together they spoke in hushed tones about a lifetime laced with moments both mundane and profound, their laughter light enough to lift the very essence of joy from its ashes. And though neither could recall how or when such depth had found them, it was within this sphere where time's passage meant nothing but eternal now, for here in their hands lay not just memories that were shared and treasured, but also those unspoken hopes and dreams yet to be woven into the tapestry of tomorrow. The night seemed endless as they walked, each step a testament to resilience born from trials overcome, for Alara's spirit had been tempered in fire only because James' heart knew its own heat, or flame kindled within one another that burned brighter with every trial faced and conquered. As stars above mirrored the glow of their intertwined gazes, it was evident they were kin not just by choice but through a bond forged in vulnerability, where love bloomed untamed amidst loss, or testament to beauty that emerges even when darkness looms most near. It was then, as Alara reached out and brushed the edge of James' cheek with her fingertips, soft yet steady like a gentle rain upon parched earth, she knew they stood on common ground, where souls met without fear, where love's embrace knows neither beginning nor end. And in that tender moment, shared underneath their ancient guardian tree, Alara whispered to James the names of all who had been lost and loved before them, a litany for those not present, but ever present within this sanctuary they called home, or sacred odes sung by hearts intertwined. Beneath that eternal sky where night's velvet cloak held no terror, Alara found solace in James' embrace, as if he had been her guardian angel through every trial faced. And though the weight of their shared history was immense in chapter 25 of our tale, under the ancient guardian trees' watchful boughs, Alara and James found themselves enveloped in a cocoon woven from memories as they sat there that evening when time seemed to stand still around them. The air was crisp with autumnal whispers. Each leaf twirling earthward sang the melody of impermanence, a reminder for two souls who had learned, perhaps too well, about loss and love's delicate balance between joy and sorrow. As Alara traced a constellation upon James' cheek with her fingers, she spoke words that were almost as tender to the night. "Remember Alias, the first one we loved, how he danced beneath these stars just like this." Her voice held reverence for past loves and their transient light. James sighed softly. His breath carried a nostalgia so tangible that it seemed as if the very night were hugging them closer, protective against any encroaching chill of solitude or fear. "Yes," he replied with warmth in his voice, or sound like sunlight filtering through leaves on an overcast day. Their fingers brushed lightly together once more as they continued to weave the names into a living tapestry before them, each name another thread that strengthened their bond and filled it with hues of all human experience. Leora, who taught forgiveness; Jude, whose laughter was like rippling streams beneath silver skies; Alara paused her recitation as twinkling stars above began to punctuate the darkness, each one a sentinel in their own right, witnesses and keepers of secrets whispered into oblivion with every turn of night's wheel. She looked at James now, his eyes reflecting constellations unseen but deeply felt as he absorbed her words, like parched earth drinks from the rains offering above them. Together they had become a part of something greater, an eternal dance between light and shadow that only lovers who understand loss could ever hope to experience. It was then, in this sacred space beneath their guardian tree, where hearts beat as one with nature's rhythms, that Alara felt the weightlessness within her own chest, a heartbeat synchronized not just across two beating organs, but through shared history and hope for futures yet unwritten. She knew in this moment of profound connection where souls met, without fear or judgment, love's embrace was both infinite and eternal, much like the stars that held their secrets close to heart tonight. Their conversation meandered through time as they spoke not just with words, but also shared glances filled with unsaid promises or language understood between them beyond the spoken word. It transcended all barriers and embraced vulnerability, where fear could no longer find harbor within their union's sanctuary. James reached out, his hand finding Alara's clasp gently as they swayed, with a breeze that seemed to whisper ancestral tales through the rustle of leaves, or timeless serenade for lovers and guardians alike who found solace in one another's arms. As their shared history unfolded like delicate petals beneath moonlight, they realized that each trial conquered was not just a testament to survival, but also an affirmation of love or force so mighty it could only be fueled by the most profound vulnerability and trust between two hearts. They understood now that loss had forged them stronger together, their bond unbroken despite life's tempests, as if they were each other's anchor in storm-tossed seas, or a lighthouse guiding homeward through fog so thick it threatened to swallow all light and hope within. Alara leaned back against the sturdy trunk of their guardian tree, whose roots delved deep into earth's mysteries, feeling as though she could draw from them strength that had cradled generations before her, a connection not just with James, but also to all who came and went beneath its ancient canopy. She knew then they were custodians of love's eternal flame, or beacon for others navigating through their own darkness, where solace could always be found in the warmth shared between two souls willing to bare themselves completely before one another's gaze. Their fingers entwined once more as they surrendered to each other's presence without reservation or fear, an act of love so simple yet profound it seemed like a secret pact made by all who had ever loved and lost. Sealed within the as dusk settled upon their secret garden, Alara and James found themselves wrapped in a comforting embrace beneath the whispering leaves of an ancient oak tree, their guardian for countless moonlit rendezvous throughout history. The air was heavy with memories that seemed to settle softly onto them like dew on morning grass, each drop holding tales from years past, echoes of laughter and whispers in the dark. The gentle rustling leaves swayed as if dancing a slow waltz around Alara's head, or tender caress against her cheekbones that she wore like badges of honor earned through trials by fire and water, wind and storm. Each wrinkle on Jane's face was etched with stories from the same earth, where they found their souls entwined in love so fierce it could only be whispered among lovers throughout time, or silent promise made under a sky filled with stars that watched over them faithfully as guardians of each other's hearts. Alara closed her eyes, allowing herself to drift into the sea of their shared history. She remembered how he had once confided in her his deepest fears and insecurities, when they were but children playing by a brook that babbled secrets only understood by those who listened with pure intent. It was under this very canopy where James revealed love's first embrace to him, tenderly cradled like the newborn of hope in his mother's arms, her gift he had never forgotten and would carry into every encounter they shared thereafter. As she recalled their journey through life together, moments when sorrow cast its long shadows across them, times that tested their resolve until it seemed as if love itself was a creature caught between the night's embrace and dawn's hopeful light, their bond remained unshaken, steadfast like mountains standing against relentless wind. They had learned to be both rock and river, strong enough not to break apart even when forces tried to erode their unity, yet fluid in adapting with the grace of water carving paths through stone under nature's gentle persuasion. Jane's hand found hers, warmth seeping into her palm as if he held a piece of sunshine captured within his touch, a tangible reminder that love could indeed be felt like an eternal flame, one which neither time nor tide had the power to quench. Together they were custodians not just for each other, but also, in their own right, stewards of something more profound and sacred, a legacy woven from threads so fine yet indestructible as love itself, or beacon that would continue shining long after night surrendered to morning's light. Under the old oak tree's protective embrace stood two souls whose journey had been one of silent promises and spoken vows, a testament not just to their own enduring devotion, but also as an anchor for those who would come seeking refuge in its shade-seekers like themselves once were. They understood now that love was more than the sum of moments spent beneath this guardian tree. It was every breath shared when fears dared cross, and laughter echoed against heartbeats racing to keep up with each other's pace on days filled with joy or sorrow alike. As they surrendered themselves once again before one another, without reservation or simple yet profound pact sealed by the eternal witness of time itself, Laura's fingers tracing patterns across James' back like a lover whispering secrets to his beloved, felt as if it was not just her own touch but an act preserved through history's annals. Their bond had been forged in vulnerability and strengthened by trust that soared on wings of shared dreams. Now, beneath the watchful eyes of this ageless tree, they found themselves whole again, an unbroken chain linking them back to each other amid life's tempests, a lighthouse guiding homeward through storm-tossed seas or fogging mists that threatened all light and hope. As night's cool fingers wrapped around the garden like an old friend returning for one final visit before dawn would come calling, it was in this haven of whispers where Alara learned to find solace, a sanctuary carved from shared love's eternal flame, unyielding even as shadows sought to snuff it out. And so they remained there until the first light peeked through leaves above them, a constant testament that no matter what life may throw their way or how darkened paths might seem when night falls upon hearts too weary for fight, love, in its purest form, was a beacon of hope untouched as dawn's first light crept through the dense canopy of ancient oaks and willows that surrounded their secret garden. Alara felt a warmth spreading from her heart to James' soul with each touch. He returned her connection, as sure as daylight following nightfall. Their love had been tested by time itself. They were two souls bound together in an eternal dance of give and take, much like the seasons that brought renewal and rest alike upon their cherished land. The garden was a living tapestry woven with threads of every hue, flowers that whispered to butterflies when touched by morning dew, trees whose leaves hummed lullabies on breezy nights, while the brook beneath them sung in harmonious refrains. Alara had spent countless hours among these natural wonders since they first met at this very spot decades ago under a blanket of starlit sky and promises made with nothing more than two hearts beating as one against her own ribcage, which James now cradled like the softest petal in his hands. He had been there for every heartache since Fenfer when she lost him to duty's call during war-torn years, and found solace under this arboreal guardian as he returned home wounded but unbroken, carrying with him tales of valor that spoke louder than the clanging cacophony of battlefield echoes. Each story had been a bridge over waters once crossed alone. Each memory shared another stone added to their foundation or fortress built not from mortar and bricks, but trust and enduring affection. As time passed without pause or regret between them, they learned the language that only true love could whisper, patience with life's unyielding march forward, forgiveness when storm clouds threatened to obscure their way, understanding in times of disagreement where shadows might have lurked too close for comfort. Their union was a masterpiece painted upon this very earth, and the ageless tree stood as both guardian and testament or sentinel, whose roots delved into history's deepest soils while its branches reached towards future skies yet to be charted by mortal eyes alone. Tonight had been a celebration of their love's resilience. It was time for them to share the fruits born from seeds they once sowed together in youthful innocence and curiosity, or harvest that spoke not just of bountiful crops, but also rich experiences savored with James' company. As hands wove around each other, their touches were gentle, unskinned, still warmth from dreams shared under starlit canopies where once divergent paths had converged toward this very moment, a reunion not merely of two hearts beating in unison, but souls that recognized the echo within one another. The garden hummed with their laughter, a sound richer than any melody plucked from lute or lyre. It was music made manifest through shared memories and tender terces, or symphony composed not for audiences of flesh but spirit alone, that resonated in the stillness between beats. They had been each other's constant, their anchor amidst life's tempestuous tides, where uncertainty threatened to erode all certainty. Together they remained steadfast, as lighthouse against a stormy seafarer, love an unassailable fortress built upon stones of trust and mortar made from the sweat of shared trials. Yet, even in this haven carved by their union's eternal flame, Elora knew that shadows sought to eclipse its light, as nightfall often threatened all hope with darkness most profound. But within her heart burned a fire no tempest could extinguish, her beacon of love's purity and strength. It was this very knowledge, nestled deep in the folds of her soul, that kept despair at bay, for she understood well enough now how to find solace amidst life's ceaseless ebb and flow. Elora had learned from James how devotion could be as a sanctuary where love's flame endured even when night sought its snuffing. As the first tendrils of dawn began their daily pilgrimage across dew-kissed leaves, painting patterns on earth's soft canvas with hues that told tales older than time itself, as light crept closer to claim dominion over darkness once more, Elora knew it was in these moments she would return again and find James waiting for her. For he had become not just a partner upon this journey, but the compass